thank you all for coming to the meeting this afternoon. At this time, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Ms. Garcia, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Walter?
Here.
Councilmember Anderson?
Here.
Councilmember Wall? Councilmember Larson?
Here.
Councilmember Cortez?
Here.
Councilmember Hughes?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 3A is new business. Item A is discussion, approval, disapproval of the Town of Florence declaring a local emergency. I'm glad that we have people gathered here today, as well as taking place telephonically, just so we can dispel some of the rumors that are out on the street, as well as clarify what we have learned in our meetings this past Monday and Tuesday, and how we're going to proceed moving forward. Mr. Billingsley and I, with the fire chief this morning, attended a meeting over at Pinal County. Mr. Billingsley, could you please give us an update on what we learned?
Yes, ma'am. As everyone knows and heard Monday night, town staff around the clock is monitoring this situation, as well as attending either telephonically or in person any number of meetings having to do with the COVID-19 virus. There are so many, we kind of have to spread our resources out amongst different platforms. So today, as the mayor said, we attended the County Board of Supervisors meeting because they had a couple of different items that had to do with COVID-19. The first was a presentation by the Director of Public Health for Pinal County with respect to the status of the virus statewide, nationally, and of course locally. Then followed up by an item to discuss things that the county health department is emphasizing in several different realms. One, amongst the county and its employees. Number two, amongst other governmental entities, and also in terms of our healthcare organizations in Pinal County. And finally, advice for the public. As you know, I provided information on Monday night, so I won't restate those items. That can be found on our website, as well as we've set up a specific link on our website that provides COVID-19 resources, including our two most recent press releases in terms of the town programs and departments. What I was going to emphasize today is items learned from the meeting today and how we might assist in implementation from the Town of Florence perspective. Following the meeting today, I also have had follow-up meetings with our intermanagement team, as well as our emergency response team. And all of these aren't going to be implemented at this time, but they're things that we were asked to consider and certainly will be considering going forward. The first is to implement changes to visitor policies in public areas. As everyone's probably aware, we're in terms of meetings where we could have more than 10 people, those will be conducted as of today telephonically, and this meeting is a good example to that. But in addition, anybody who visits town facilities are going to see postings on the door asking folks if they are ill, if they're having symptoms, to not enter the building, but to do business telephonically, and to report to a healthcare professional for some assistance. The doors to the admin portion, the management portion of this building will be locked. All visitors will be sent to the window on the east side of the building where they can get assistance, and that folks can come out and help them with clerk functions, manager functions, legal functions, court functions, etc. So that will be handled that way in this building. That's just one example. The town is working with our local hospital, the Anthem Hospital, with regard to the CDC and Pinal County's requirements in terms of triage potential in terms of if there's a deluge of patients. Mountain Vista Medical Center put out a press release yesterday, so I would suggest that folks go and check that out. The hospital obviously is still open, and they would ask that you go up and report, and they're going to have someone to check you out if you enter that facility. We've been asked to actively monitor the health of our employees, and county actually gave a presentation this morning in terms of what they are going to do with respect to that, and we intend to implement those same policies here at the town of Florence. Monitoring PPE, personal protective equipment, not only making sure that we have access to proper PPE for employees that come in contact with the public, but also making sure that we have proper training and proper implementation of that personal protective equipment. In addition to this item, we just learned yesterday, Dave Strayer, the fire chief, and myself, that the Federal Reserve of emergency equipment and supplies, the stockpile, has now been released, and Arizona is going to receive a shipment, and we've got an order in to try and get some of those supplies. We encourage everyone, including in the community, places of gathering, including churches, restaurants, any place that could have 10 or more people to practice social distancing, which is a 10-foot, not 10 foot, a 6-foot requirement distance between individuals. We're going to make sure, and the mayor and I had some very purposeful conversations this morning regarding how we might support services for our at-needs population, our special needs population in the town, and there'll be more to come on that. As I mentioned before, the town will be canceling all gatherings of over 10 people. That includes things like our staff meetings that we have on a weekly basis. Those are going to be conducted telephonically. We have certain employees within the town that are in an at-risk population. We're currently working with our IT department to make sure that those folks can work via telework. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to Trenton, our IT manager, just before this meeting about one of our employees that we're working with. We got one set up today. Sounds like we have another to set up tomorrow. We are going to cancel all non-essential work travel. As I said before, and we're going to have some screening of our employees in terms of health, and we'll be sending employees home and suggesting medical care if they're showing symptoms. We're going to take a hard look at alternate schedules or scheduling times, staggering scheduling times for employees in their employment. No changes at this time, but in some departments it makes sense to do that. We want to make sure that our employees are educated. We have provided information both in mailers that have gone out with paychecks as well as correspondence from our HR department. One went out today in terms of educating those employees about the virus, but also to have a household plan in terms of how they react, and most recently some stress awareness information was sent out to our employees because we know a lot of folks are stressed about what is currently going on. We're advising to our employees. We also advise to the public to avoid gatherings, large gatherings of people, and to not travel and put themselves in a position of being exposed in areas that have higher opportunity of exposure. The Pinal County will be having a Board of Supervisors meeting at 9:30 a.m. this Friday to consider their emergency declaration. One of the things that's important as we hear this upcoming item is that the governments in Pinal County have been working together to make sure that we have consistency, both the county and the cities and towns, so that we have consistency between the way that we handle this, because it's being handled as an emergency. Of course, working with the CDC and FEMA, there is funding that becomes applicable, and there's certain processes that a declaration puts in place to ease procurement requirements, to free up funding, and to certainly how do I want to say, shortened timeframes of decision-making for key decisions as it relates to the potential emergency. And with that, I'm going to be quiet, Mayor.
That was an excellent presentation. Council, do you have any questions on that?
No. No.
No. No.
No.
Okay, so at this time, we need an approval or a disapproval of the Town of Florence declaring a local emergency.
Mayor, would you like me to read it into the record?
Yes, sir.
It's a lot of reading, but I will do my best.
Do you want me to read the entire proclamation? Because I was going to do that second.
Okay, is that second? Okay, sorry.
Okay, so first we need a motion on A, approving or disapproving the Town of Florence declaring a local emergency.
This
So
is
moved.
Karen Wall. I'll make a motion to approve the town of Florence declaring a local emergency. Second. Second.
We have a motion and a second. The first motion was made by Karen Wall. The second motion I heard was made by Kristen Larson. And then for future motions, when you're making the motion telephonically, if you could say your name, that would be helpful. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item B is the emergency proclamation. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and read it. The Town of Florence Emergency Proclamation declaring a local emergency in the Town of Florence. Whereas ARS 26311 authorizes the mayor of the Town of Florence, Arizona, or her designee to proclaim the existence or threatened existence of a local emergency when the Town of Florence is affected or likely to be affected by a public calamity. And whereas the mayor and the town council of the Town of Florence adopted resolution number 103407, adopting the Town of Florence Emergency Response and Recovery Plan, the Florence Emergency Response Plan, and whereas the novel coronavirus COVID-19 was first detected in Wuhan town, Hubei province, China in December 2019, and the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, considers this virus to be a significant public health threat that has and continues to spread globally. And whereas on January 30th, 2020, the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 illness a public health emergency of international concern, and on January 31st, 2020, the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services declared a public health emergency due to the COVID-19 illness. And whereas on March 11th, 2020, Governor of the state of Arizona, Douglas A. Ducey, determined that COVID-19 outbreak presents conditions in Arizona that justified his declaration of a state of emergency. And whereas on March 13th, 2020, the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, found and proclaimed that the COVID-19 outbreak in the United States constituted a national emergency. And whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in an effort to control the COVID-19 outbreak, are currently recommending social distancing, the cancellation of non-essential large gatherings of more than 50 people, and that individuals older than 60 years of age and those with chronic medical conditions should not attend gatherings of more than 10 people. And whereas on March 16th, 2020, the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, issued the President's Coronavirus Guidelines for America, 15 days to slow the spread, which recommends that all individuals avoid social gatherings in groups of more than 10 people. And whereas the town continues to plan and prepare for events and facility closures, modified staffing plans, work-from-home programs, and enhanced communications to employees to ensure effective continuity of operations of the town government. And whereas prudence requires that precautionary measures be taken proactively due to the widespread nature of COVID-19 and its threat to public health, safety, and welfare as referenced in the governor's declaration of emergency. and that impacts from the same threatened public health and safety and economic recovery of Florence. And whereas the widespread nature of COVID-19 constitutes an immediate threat to life, public health, safety, and welfare, and the economic recovery of Florence. And whereas this local declaration of emergency will help ensure the economic recovery of Florence and mitigate the spread of COVID-19, protect the public health, and provide essential protections to the vulnerable Florence residents, and it is reasonable and necessary to impose limited and temporary restrictions on certain uses in our community, and whereas the immediate threat of COVID-19 is widespread across the state, and precautionary measures are necessary to curtail the imminent impact on numerous homes and businesses in Florence, because it is a threat to health, safety, and welfare of the general public in Florence. And whereas the above facts give credence to the conditions of extreme peril and public health emergency, and the declaration of a local emergency will enable the town of Florence to provide emergency resources, request additional resources, and receive mutual aid from other political subdivisions and entities, and therefore to impose all necessary regulations to preserve the peace and order in the town. Now, therefore, it is hereby proclaimed and declared as follows. Section 1, pursuant to the Code of the Town of Florence, Section 3301, and ARS Section 26311A, a local emergency now exists throughout the town of Florence, Arizona, due to the COVID-19 outbreak, which presents conditions in the town that endanger life and justifies this proclamation. Section 2, pursuant to the Town Code, Section 3315, the Town of Florence's Emergency Response Plan is hereby reaffirmed, adopted, and incorporated herein by its reference, as if set out in full. Section 3, pursuant to ARS Section 26308, the Florence Town Manager is hereby appointed as the Town of Florence Local Emergency Director of all local emergency management programs within the Town of Florence, including the programs enumerated in the Florence Emergency Response Plan. Section 4, the local emergency director may make, amend, and rescind orders, rules, and regulations necessary for emergency functions, but such shall not be inconsistent with orders, rules, and regulations promulgated by the Governor of Arizona or the Mayor of the Town of Florence. Section 5, the town manager is ordered, directed, and authorized to implement any and all actions necessary to carry out the intent of this proclamation. Section 6, during the existence of said local emergency, the powers, functions, and duties of the emergency organization of the town shall be those prescribed by state law, by ordinances, and resolutions of the town. Section 7, citizens are urged to cooperate with this emergency declaration and, to every degree possible, abide and cooperate with the safety announcements, advisories, restrictions established by the community's public safety agency and emergency services personnel. Section 8, town facilities will remain open for the time being, but programs, events, and activities that are not essential will be suspended until further notice. Further details regarding suspended programs, events, and activities will be forthcoming. Closures of the town facilities may occur as needed in the future, and the town, acting through the local emergency director and/or mayor, will monitor these needs on an ongoing basis. Section 9, this proclamation shall remain in full force and effect until amended or terminated by order of the mayor of the town of Florence. Pursuant to ARS 38-431-02 as amended, notice is hereby given to the general public that during the declared state of emergency, a possible quorum of the Florence Town Council may be in attendance during the periodic County Health Emergency Operations Center and incident debriefs. However, no formal discussions or actions will be taken by members in their role as Florence Town Council. Proclaimed, declared, and adopted by the Mayor of the Town of Florence, Arizona, on this 18th day of March, 2020. That is our emergency proclamation. After reading that, I do want to clarify a few items. First and foremost, we are following the guidelines put forth by the CDC, President Trump, Governor Ducey. At this time, those guidelines are recommendations. We're not making anything enforceable, so I just want to make sure that's very clear. I've had a lot of communication with people that own local businesses. Some of those local businesses have made a choice on their own where, for example, the fudge shop, they're closed, but they're going to be available for pickup or delivery, but just not dine-in services. Wendy Yu with Sonar Isa, she's still available, but remotely, just not in the office. We are honoring our individual businesses and what they decide in the town. I do know, and I have talked to, as well as Mr. Billingsley has spoken with a lot of our restaurant owners. They would definitely appreciate your support at this time, whether you can pick up, and I know a lot of them are also looking for delivery. Their supply is good, it's strong. I know in the grocery stores, it looks very weak out there. I assure you their supply is strong, and they would love your business during this time. Mr. Billingsley, did I miss anything?
No, ma'am, very well done. Thank you.
Okay, and I also want to, on behalf of our town staff and employees, everything is in place. We want to make sure that our citizens are safe. We want to make sure that our town staff is safe. We want to make sure that we have procedures and protocols in place, and our two chiefs that are with us this afternoon have done an amazing job at facilitating every scenario that could come their way. They're prepared, they're ready, and we're ahead of this curve right now. Council, this is a call to the council for current events. Councilmember Larson.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Hughes.
Everybody try to be safe.
Councilmember Cortez.
I have nothing.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
I just watched the governor's press conference, and it was interesting that Kimberly was there, and she made a plea for the small businesses that they needed more attention and more help because of this. So I'd just like to emphasize that also, that whatever we can do to help our small businesses in town, we need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, item number 5.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, this is Karen Wall. I just wanted to thank you and town manager and town staff for the excellent job that is being done to prepare the town and support the town and its businesses through this.
Thank you, Councilmember Wall, and I apologize if I missed you. I'm sorry. I appreciate you.
No problem.
All right. With that, we need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn. John Anderson.
Second, Judy Hughes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.